So, hello everyone. Welcome to this week's installment of ClueCon Weekly. This week with us we have Chris Matthieu, the founder of Group Room, and someone who has a resume so long that it will take the full half hour of the podcast just to go over it. So, thank you, Chris, for joining us.
Hey, Luca, you're too kind, man. Great to be on your show.
Would you like to give us a quick introduction about yourself?
Oh, yeah. My name's Chris Matthieu, and I've built and sold like 5 companies to date. And several of them have been in the VoIP, Webrtc type telecom telephony space. And Group Room is just following along that journey. So I'm super excited to be back amongst friends in this cool industry and experimenting with WebRTC in new ways.
So, by going through the websites for your latest endeavors, such as Group Room and Metaverse, what I found very interesting is that, there's a couple acronyms that I'm not fully clear what they mean, such as XR. I know what AR is, so augmented reality, but what's the meaning of XR and how it plays into the Webrtc world?
Yeah, that's a great question. So XR is like extended reality, but it's really a catch-all phrase for everything AR, VR, like virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. It's kind of the catch-all of all realities in one XR. So the industry believes that a lot of these are converging. So the idea is like a lot of apps in VR let you teleport to maybe a location or space, whereas if you're there in AR, you might be able to actually interact with the people remotely teleported into that 3D space. So it's kind of converging. So XR is the catch-all for everything.
Oh, nice. So, yeah, it's kind of like of augmented reality light in a sense, a mixed version of the two. That sounds really interesting. So, yeah. So, what can you do with XR? What could be a good example?
So what's really cool is, like browser technology, as it did with WebRTC, continues to advance. There's something called WebXR now. And with a browser, you can actually build web apps that put the little VR, like little icon down in the bottom right of the web app. So you kind of think you're in like a metaverse space, like a 3D group room, and you see your colleagues moving around the space. But if you happen to have like an Oculus or a Vive VR headset or a Magic Leap or a HoloLens AR headset, you can click the little or touch the little VR icon in the bottom of the website, and all of a sudden this little 2D website space turns into an immersive 360-degree 3D space, and all of the little group room video bubbles like that are moving around are all now at eye level, and you feel like you're in like the expo center or the office space, chatting with your friends, but they're in bubbles like at head height, and it feels like you're really teleported there, speaking with in your office.
Oh, that's just amazing. Yeah, I think, and of course, I will say that this has been technology you've been working on for a while now. I would say this plays right into what happened recently. The whole bat soup thing or pangolin sandwich or whatever it was, and the hilarity that ensued.
Yeah, and I think that's where that was really how Group Room was really born. One of my previous endeavors, I built a decentralized supercomputer platform. I sold to Magic Leap, and I was traveling from Phoenix, Florida every other week. And when you're in an office, you have all of these cool serendipitous moments where you see a colleague in the hall, you have a hallway conversation, or you overhear some of your other colleagues talking about what they're working on, and you can join those conversations. I mean, that's magical. But that traveling like that, every other week was horrific. And then the pandemic hit. Everyone was moved to quarantine, and it kind of dawned on me that there's got to be a better way than sitting in like those Zoom hour meetings back to back. That what if we could create this replicant of in real life scenario where you've got a digital twin of the office place, your office area, and instead of tiled videos, what if each person could have a little bubble, a little video bubble that you could move around the space, whether it's a 2D or a 3D space, move around the space. And just like in real life, speak with people near you. Like you kind of got this listening radius, if you will. And you can just, you'd have to move your little video bubble over to friends or colleagues in the space to say hello. And that was really the genesis of GroupRoom.io, the new venture.
That's yeah. I think there's been well, I mean, SignalWire work in a sense was born out of the same requirements. We build a platform that replicates an office lobby. It's less of an interactive experience. Of course, you have a preview of the room and a list of people who are in there, but there's no really a concept of a true office space. So it's slightly maybe less immersive, maybe a little bit more immediate. It's a different way to do the same thing. And I think there's many things going on like that. So I'm curious, how do you actually replicate the office? Is there a way to scan it, or people just go and create rooms?
Yeah, so there's a lot of like tools out there to actually like design like office spaces. I think they're more targeted for like if you're building an office space, they're you can use them to help design it. Like where do you put the couches or the desks or the offices? So you can use a tool like that and it spits out, you know, you can put like a 20,000 pixel image of your office space. And the group room just uses that. It adjusts the HTML5 canvas to fit however big your image is that you upload. So you can have a really big like expo hall, you know, type space, or the floor of your office plan, or better yet, if you ever wanted one of those big swanky San Francisco style, you know, startup offices, you could use that, you know, instead. But to your point, the like the iPhone 12 and now the 13, they have lidar on built into the camera, so you could just as easily kind of like take a quick lidar scan of your space and use that as your 3D group room space.
Really? I
Yeah.
had no idea. I'm ordering an iPhone 13 as soon as we get off the call. This is Yeah,
Well,
this sounds really interesting. So yeah, you mentioned lidar, you mentioned a couple other technologies, but let's focus on the WebRTC side for a moment. What technologies are actually at play in here? Let's say, we all know they're not standards, so many of them are not, they're nothing but recommendations. But let's call them standards. Like what acronyms are in place so you can build two-dimensional or three-dimensional space, such as the metaverse one, because it looks like it's much better than the old Java applets that we all played with 12, 15 years ago.
yep, we were all there. Yeah, so both the 2D and the 3D versions of Group Room use the same, you know, WebRTC communications components that we've built, and we've got two flavors of it. So we offer a free program for GroupRoom.io, and for that we use pure WebRTC. You know, we have our own signaling server I wrote, which was back from the days of Telephone, back when I was building that, you know, like 8 or 9 years ago. And what that does is it's, you know, as you know, with WebRTC, it's pure peer-to-peer encrypted end-to-end encrypted audio and video. And what we've done is on top of that added a proximity algorithm so that, you know, based on how far away you are, how close you are to other users in the room, you know, basically using their XY coordinates on the screen or XYZ if they're in 3D, we compute an algorithm that basically lowers your volume, or, you know, as you get further away from someone, or increases your volume as you get closer to someone. And we do a visual effect on the video too. We'll grayscale it as you start getting away. So if you see someone in the room that's gray, you know, gray video bubble, then you know that you're too far away from them where they can't hear you and you can't hear them. So as you move closer, it colorizes. So then that's the free version. And if you're a paying user of Group Room, we're using currently Twilio for the paying user. So you can get I think their limit now is, I think, 50 people per like Twilio. I can't even talk. Twilio video room. But that's just pure media servers. Like, we could use Media Super or some other cool tech for that.
Nice. Well, you should try using SignalWire.
Dude, we totally could. In fact, I was thinking about how that would work, and with like a group room SignalWire implementation, we could default our private rooms to SignalWire, so no longer use like private meeting rooms inside of a group room space. And we could maybe even default our chat to SignalWire as well. So SignalWire is like that more intimate, like private meetings. And then, while everyone's kind of working throughout the day, they're using group room to move around to their desk or the lobby or, stuff like that. So I think it'd be a pretty cool integration.
That sounds like a great idea. Well, let's discuss that later. I mean, it's very interesting. One interesting thing I'm looking at is looking at metaverses, and I'm curious about. First of all, it looks gorgeous, like the videos I'm looking at, and it's just incredible. So congratulations about that.
Oh, thank you.
But from the pure renderings perspective, where is the rendering actually happening? Like when I'm traveling through one of the spaces.
Yep, it's all in the browser real time. So just for the listeners, so GroupRoom.io, what we've done is we've made that basically our 2D implementation of spaces of video chat in spaces. And Metaverses.io is a fork basically of GroupRoom, and it's purely 3D spaces. So it's the same type of technology. One's GroupRoom's 2D, Metaverses.io is 3D. And what we've seen is that there's really two different audiences. What we've seen is a lot of the enterprise digital hybrid workplace folks want 2D, like that's what they want for their day-to-day. It's kind of like the next evolution of Zoom. But then what we find is the people that are doing like bigger events or the more VR, XR savvy audiences, they want this metaverse, this 3D metaverse style implementation. And both platforms create the whole experience happens in the browser in real time. So and we've been really careful making sure this runs in all browsers and on all devices. So if you're using a mobile phone, for instance, in the mobile browser, we add some virtual joystick controls to the screen. So to make it easy to move your little video bubble around the space with a mobile device, or if you're on a desktop or laptop, it just works the way it does in those videos. Or like we mentioned earlier, if you're in a headset, like a Oculus VR or a HoloLens AR, then you're truly, that one web browser app basically can create this 360-degree immersive experience.
And I was checking out the name of the technology. It looks like it's called A-frame, right? The standard or whatever it is. Because again, you know better than I do than calling things standard in our world is essentially looking for trouble, because I get every time I mistakenly use the word standard or protocol or recommendation or specification or whatever, I get 5 emails from the audience saying, hey, that's not actually a standard. Yeah, I know. But yeah, so the thing called A-frame, it looks quite interesting.
Yeah, so A-frame is the 3D building blocks, if you will, of Metaverses.io, and it was developed by Mozilla. It is open source, and it was primarily developed to power Mozilla's Hubs project. So Mozilla has like a 3D metaverse platform called Hubs that's pretty mature. They've been at it for years. And what's cool is that ecosystem of developers around A-frame, they've built tons of components and things like that we take advantage of, where you can like embed web technology or web like divs and web videos and web audio, like anything that you can HTMLify, you can embed into these A-frame powered 3D environments. So you could really get creative with like an expo center with big videos on the walls, or like you could even think of like taking your website and taking a div maybe out of your website and putting that into the 3D space as well. So yeah, I figured A-frame would be like really simple to bring, most web developers, into the 3D world quickly.
So yeah, it looks really interesting. It's probably just being rendered to a canvas or something like that, but because
It is, yeah. It's like a 3D canvas. It uses underneath A-frame is this really popular stack called 3JS, and it's basically like 3D for Canvas, Canvas 3D.
3.js. Oh wow, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I think there's a lot going on that's being made possible by this kind of endeavors. Especially Mozilla has released a lot of interesting stuff, but it's easier than ever to put together open. They're mostly open source, by the way. Putting together open source technology and just getting to a product. Granted, you have to do it if you want to have a product, you need to actually put work in it. But it's very interesting. And this place, you can use this with actual VR, right?
True. Yeah. So VR and AR, even AR on mobile devices, they have this thing called ARJS that uses A-frame as well. It's amazing. Like as you watched, WebRTC mature over the decade, WebXR is doing that now. Like it's in hyper growth drive right now, like WebRTC was back in the day.
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot going on. It's they still have to finish Webrtc, so I hope someone remembers us. I mean,
Yeah,
there's not much
exactly.
left, but there's quite a bit of things and it still need to
Exactly.
happen.
Well, and I was having fun, like you and I, we've done all the WebRTC stuff again, in the past, many implementations of it, I'm sure. But this spatial audio algorithm, like that was for me, that was really cool and really new, and it's different. It was different creating a spatial or proximity chat algorithm for 2D versus 3D. So that was really fun, and got to exercise the technical chops again, saying, how do you adjust this volume if someone's like 300 pixels away or a meter away from you, and moving further away or closer together? Like how do you adjust that volume where it feels like it would in real life? That was cool.
That's really, yeah. The spatial audio is something that's coming out. I mean, you needed to have the full VR experience that you're looking for, so it's really necessary. But it's also something that doesn't have a ready-made solution. So of course you built an algorithm, and that's the secret sauce there.
Yep.
I'm
Yep,
looking at the
exactly.
features that you have in this group room product, and there is so much closed captioning, language translations. It's awesome. Well, yeah.
Thank you.
What are some other cool stuff you can do here with this? Just so we get a couple of other examples.
Yeah, so it's got, like you mentioned, it's got a lot of add-ons. It has a really good collaboration tool suite, and we've
Oh
kind
yeah.
of made this so it's kind of like an open architecture plugin, if you will. If a collaboration tool can run in an iframe, it can run inside of group rooms. So we found a really good open source whiteboard, added that. We've added like Google Docs like into it, so you can collaborate with Google Docs. We've added YouTube, and the YouTube videos are also spatially aware. So as you move further away from the video, like the volume gets lower, you move closer, it gets louder. So that feels like in real life, like as you're walking towards a video on the wall, it gets louder like you would expect it to do. And we added, like I mentioned, private rooms. So if you go into a private meeting room, it'll just be the tiled room without people hearing you nearby. Um,
Is that
but
is the spatial awareness something that Google does, so YouTube does, or you added that?
Well, we added it. So
Wow.
YouTube has an API, and I was excited to discover that. I didn't realize they did, and that API does let you adjust the volume on the video. So I was like, well, that's perfect, because then I'll just apply the algorithm that we use for the distance between people as the distance between the video, and I just pass the YouTube API the current volume level based on your proximity. So that worked out pretty easy since we already had the proximity chat algorithm figured out.
Yeah, they're just amazing. This again, the 3D, and well, it's not really 3D if you're on a surface. So again, people in the audience, I know, but the ability to hear that someone is on your right and just turn around, or maybe move away, because sometimes you want to do the opposite, right?
Yep. Yep.
I,
You know,
I think the first
and
time
what
we might have met at the Voxea offices back in Orlando
oh
years
yeah.
and years ago, and that place was super noisy, if you remember.
Yes, yes, crazy loud. One big open space with a lot of boisterous personalities.
Being able to move away will actually be
Yeah.
useful, and it's a feature that is as useful as going towards the sound source for sure.
You know, I've seen people do that before where they'll get a personal phone call like while they're in group room, and they move their little person like away from everyone to another office so no one can hear them, and they take their call and then they move back and join the group. So I have seen people like working in group room all day long. Like they'll meet in the morning, they'll go to like the break room, and they'll, you know, as they're getting their coffee in real life, and they just hang out with their colleagues in the morning. Maybe they'll do their stand up in the morning like there, and then everyone just moves to where they're either their cubicles or offices or like sofas. Like if they just want to hang out like in an open area and just kind of work together but be in earshot from one another. I see people do that. And I also see people using group room for like Friday afternoon social hours where it's kind of cool, where you might get, you know, dozens of people in a space, but you could also have dozens of conversations happening at the same time, you know, based on proximity chat, where you can just move around and find, oh, say, hey, oh, there's Luca over there, let me go say hello to him. Or hey, there's Danny over there, let me go say hello to her. And you know, you're able to move around and kind of change, you know, groups of people you're chatting with, you know, by the minute.
Yeah, it's awesome. Well, let's chat about how we can collaborate, because we're definitely interested. We've been doing similar stuff. So switching gears, because I have you on, and people looking at your LinkedIn page will know that you've been through quite a bit of startups. So I think we owe people 5 minutes of questions about. So you built and sold many successful startups. Is there so asking for a secret here is probably is not really a good question. It's never a good question. Like there's no secret. There's no. But what will you recommend people do in this space when they're looking to build a company to to achieve what you did?
Well, thank you first of all for those kind words. And while there isn't a recipe that I've been able to figure out just yet, I think a lot of it comes to, you know, one, it has to be an idea and an implementation that works well. That's here and now. Like there's a lot of ideas that we all have that we build, and they're not like ready, like the world's not ready for them yet. So sometimes they're like 3 years out in the future, and you really need something that's going to gain traction right now. Like group room is, in my mind, perfect for right now, because you know, everyone's, you know, hybrid working. Half the people are in the office, half the people are remote, and it's really causing a lot of problems because it's difficult to work together still. Like we're not all in the office like we were a long time ago. And then I think another thing is finding a real business problem and solving for it, rather than just building a cool technology and then trying to find a business case for it. That's what a lot of entrepreneurs run into a lot of problem with as well. And then maybe thirdly, um, uh, being good about or consistent about marketing it on the social media, and keeping all of your past, you know, colleagues and friends and relationships like in the loop on what you're building and why it's necessary or why they might be interested. You know, so you know, in our career stages, like you, we've worked at a lot of places.
Yeah.
We've known a lot of people, you know, that are either still at those companies or have moved on to other companies. Keeping everyone in the loop of what you're doing, that's usually how you find that ignited thread in someone else's mind that goes, oh, I need what you're building, and the company needs what you're building, and wow, it would be so much better if our company could do this X, Y, or Z with it than what you're currently doing. So a lot of times you find people with bigger ideas on what they can do with the platform beyond where you're able to take it, and that's where those acquisitions have usually evolved.
Yeah, I think the well, all of our points are important, but the first point is probably the one that strikes me the most. I've seen a lot of people have 90% of what they needed, and the remaining 10% didn't exist yet. That kills you. Reminds me of when we first met. Webrtc was in that stage.
Yep.
It didn't take long to materialize, but in 2011, 12, yeah, I
Yep.
was sort of working. I wouldn't say it wasn't really there, but I wouldn't say it was the best way to implement something. Yeah, we were still talking about, hey, why don't we do a Java applet?
Yep.
That
Well, and
10
remember,
years
it
ago.
only worked in Chrome in the beginning. So people were like, well, what if I use Safari, or what if I use Firefox? Well, no, you can't talk with each other. You have to use Chrome.
Yeah, true. That's absolutely the case. Yeah, it feels like there's so much that's important. Also, another thing I really like is the idea of keeping people in the loop. People you know, if you tell people you know about what you're doing, they'll want to help. They'll get curious. It's usually people that are in the space, so they know how to. Maybe they know you and they know you're. I mean, you usually they know you for being good if you're if you've been
Yeah.
in the space for a long time. So
Yep.
that's really an important point. That's I would say that's understated. I will agree with that. It's people would just launch into space, like empty space, like, hey, I've done this, and yeah, I know I've found out a friend that started a startup maybe I don't know a month after, and they were why didn't you tell me? I literally
Yeah.
work in that space. I'm happy
Yeah.
to
Or maybe
look.
I would have wanted to join you or help you. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
or I need your product, which is the simplest thing. Like sometimes it's why didn't you tell me earlier? I need a new email client. So
Well,
that's really a good point. Cool.
Well,
So well,
you know, there's one more thing to add. It's like a lot of times developers build things because maybe something doesn't exist, a product doesn't exist, but they have a problem that they're trying to solve for them. And a lot of times, if you're having that problem, other people are probably having that problem too, right? So a lot of
correct.
times
Yeah,
it's if you can scratch your own need, your own itch, and build something that solves a problem for you, oftentimes just communicating about it, other people go, oh, I have that same problem, man, I'd pay $5 or $10 a month to
solve
use
that.
that too. Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah, the solving a problem is well they say the solving a problem is the start of any idea, but it's not always like that. Sometimes you start from a cool technology you either invented or you just came across to, and sometimes you I mean it's not always just the idea
True.
of fixing stuff. Sometimes we engineers tend to do things just because they're cool. I mean
Yes.
people in the audience, absolutely correct. We raise your hands if you've done something just because it was cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Everybody has. So there's nothing to be ashamed of. But yeah, sometimes to get things done and you need a product. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It was great meeting you, Chris, today. And there was so much we went over what XR is, what AR is, Group Room, which is a very nice 2D space, Metaverses, which is a 3D space. It's all based on standards. It's super interesting. Go check them out. It's grouproom.io and Metaverses with the plural.io.
Yep.
And well, thank you for joining us, Chris.
Luke, yeah, likewise. Thank you so much for catching up, and it's been a fun conversation as always. And we'll pick up this conversation about signal wire integration next.
Oh, we're here. Cool. So, and
Awesome.
for the audience, thank you so much for joining us today, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.